Okay, so get this. Today's deep dive is taking us into the world of online bread baking communities. Yeah, you heard that right?
And before you think, wait, bread, that's a little niche even for this show. Trust me, stick around.
This isn't just about recipes improving times. We're talking about how one group, baking great bread at home, has become this awesome example of what an online community can be.
And we've got their semi-annual report to dig into, which is way more interesting than it sounds, by the way.
Seriously, I dove into this thing and I was blown away. 35,000 members?
Which is incredible growth, especially since they started right at the beginning of.
Oh, the great sourdough awakening of 2020. Yeah, I remember those days. Everyone was suddenly a bread expert.
Exactly. But this group, they didn't just ride that wave and fizzle out. They've kept growing, which means they're doing something right.
And that's what makes this deep dive so fascinating. What's their secret sauce? Because this isn't just about baking, right? These are lessons any online community could use.
100%. And the best part is this report is like their playbook.
Yeah.
They lay it all out there, the good, the challenging, what's worked for them.
So we're talking actionable insights here, folks. But before we get into nitty-gritty, let's back up. How did they even get to 35,000 members? Was it just pandemic boredom, or is there something more?
Well, starting during those early lockdown days definitely gave them a boost, no doubt. But what's interesting is how they handled that growth. See, lots of online communities, they kind of explode, then things fizzle because it's too much.
Right, it's like a sourdough starter that wasn't fed enough. It just kind of collapses.
That's a perfect way to put it. But Baking Great Bread at Home did the opposite. They were really intentional about growing at a sustainable pace and shaping the community's culture from day one.
Intentionality, I like that. Because
Sure.
it's not enough to just create a Facebook group and hope for the best,
Right?
right? You need a plan, a vision for the kind of space you want to create.
Exactly. And that's where they really stood out to me. They weren't just letting the group run wild, they were actively curating the experience.
Okay, so less free-form sourdough and more like perfectly measured croissant dough in terms of their approach.
Perfect analogy. And one of the first things that really jumped out at me in the report was their focus on quality control.
Quality control. Okay, when we're talking about bread, that makes sense. But we're talking about online interactions here.
Yeah.
What does that even look like?
So, get this. Most online groups, they want to grow as fast as possible, right? More members, more the merrier, that kind of thing. But Baking Great Bread at Home did the opposite. They're incredibly selective about who they let in.
Wait, seriously, there's like a velvet rope to get into this bread-making haven. You have to prove your worthiness to discuss sourdough techniques.
Well, not an official application or anything, but they do have a screening process for new members. And hold on to your hats because they actually decline over half of the people who requested to join recently.
No way, over half. They're willing to turn people away. That's commitment right there.
Right. They'd rather have a smaller group of genuinely passionate home bakers than a massive group where it's just like spam and people trying to sell you their miracle bread making gadgets.
And I bet that creates a much more positive and supportive environment for everyone involved. It's about quality over quantity, right?
Exactly. And that's something I think a lot of online communities could learn from. It's so easy to get caught up in chasing those big numbers, but at the end of the day, it's the quality of the interactions, that sense of genuine connection that really matters.
100%. Okay, so we know they're selective about who gets to join this bread-making utopia. But what happens once you're in? What makes this group so special? Besides, the obvious shared love of all things doughy and delicious, so they've got this whole exclusive club vibe going on. I get it. But what's happening inside this bread-making inner circle that makes it so special?
Well, the report dives deep into how they've structured the group, and it's surprisingly organized, like way more than you'd expect from your average Facebook group.
Okay, so we're talking more than just a recipe swap and the occasional baking fail photo.
Oh, yeah, way more. They have this whole volunteer team they call the Bread Squad, and it's not just a cute name. These folks have, like, specific roles to keep things running smoothly.
Okay, now I need details.
Yeah.
Who are these Bread Squad heroes? Are we talking like moderators, dough whisperers, gluten-free gurus?
Pretty much. First up, you've got your administrators. They're the big picture people setting the overall vision, making sure the group stays true to its mission. Think of them as, like, the executive pastry chefs.
Love the analogy.
Yeah.
But with 35,000 members, that's a lot of dough to manage. Who else is on this Bread Squad?
That's where the moderators come in. They're like the heart of the community, keeping those conversations flowing, answering questions, making sure everyone feels welcome and, not like they're going to get in trouble for using the wrong kind of flour.
They're like the friendly hosts of a really epic online baking party.
Exactly. And then my personal favorites, the baking experts. These are experienced home bakers from within the group who volunteer their time and knowledge.
Ah, so they're the ones who can tell you why your sourdough starter is acting more like a science experiment gone wrong, like a baking hotline, but with more empathy.
Exactly. They're fielding those SOS calls, troubleshooting techniques, offering encouragement when someone's latest creation comes out looking a little rustic. It's like having a personal baking coach on call 24/7.
That's amazing. It's like they've created this whole ecosystem of support. It's not just about following instructions. It's about truly learning and growing as a baker.
And that seems to be a big part of their philosophy. They're not just throwing recipes out there, they're investing in their members' skills, which I think makes people even more invested in the community.
Makes sense.
Mm.
So we've got quality control, a dedicated team, this whole supportive vibe. What else? Because something tells me they're not stopping there.
You would be right. Remember we were talking about intentionality, how they're really deliberate about everything?
Yeah, they're like the Marie Kondos of the online baking world. Everything sparks joy and has its place.
Totally. Well, they also get that a thriving online community needs more than just like good bones. You need those extra things to keep people engaged. Those, I can't believe they offer that perks.
Okay, you've officially piqued my interest. Spill the flour. What are these perks?
Well, for starters, they've got some pretty sweet partnerships going on. They've teamed up with several baking equipment companies to offer their members discounts and giveaways.
Okay, now that's just smart, because who doesn't love a discount on a stand mixer or like a lifetime supply of yeast?
Right. But they didn't stop there. They also launched their own podcast, Breaking Bread. They interview famous bakers, talk about trends, all sorts of cool stuff.
Wow, talk about commitment. They're like the Food Network of online baking communities.
Right. And there's more. They even created a whole glossary of baking terms.
A whole glossary. Seriously. I mean, I like to think I know my way around the bag of flour, but even I have to Google what baker's percentage means sometimes.
Exactly. It's such a small thing, but it shows they're paying attention to the details and making sure everyone feels included no matter their skill level.
They're like the cool, supportive, older sibling you wish you had to guide you through the world of baking. But we've been talking about this amazing community, and I'm dying to know, who are these bread enthusiasts? What do we know about them? So we've got this amazingly well-organized, supportive group all about the love of bread. But who are these people, these flour-dusted heroes making it all happen?
Well, the report gets into the nitty-gritty of who's baking up a storm in this community. And maybe not surprisingly, it's mostly women aged 25 to 54.
Which, let's be real, is pretty typical for online spaces about, things that used to be considered domestic skills. But I bet it's more interesting than just that.
Oh, absolutely. And the report digs deeper, thankfully. They highlight how diverse everyone's backgrounds are, different careers, lifestyles, even levels of baking experience. It's not just one kind of person, which is awesome.
Right. Like, baking is for everyone. I'm seeing more and more guys in my sourdough classes lately, which is awesome. It's not just a women's thing anymore.
Totally. And the report actually mentions that how they're seeing more men joining in, which I think reflects what's happening in general, right? Dudes are discovering the joy of homemade bread.
Love that. The more the merrier, I say. But does the report say where all these bakers are from? Is it just like a local U.S. thing, or are we talking international bread obsession here?
That's one of the coolest things I found. So while the group's based in the U.S., they've got members from everywhere, Europe, Asia, down under in Australia. It's a global loaf love fest.
That's wild. Proof that everyone understands a good baguette, no matter what language you speak.
Totally. It really shows how these niche online groups can bring people together across all kinds of borders. Like, we might feel isolated sometimes, scrolling on our phones, but this proves there's real connection happening too.
It's like a virtual sourdough starter, being shared and passed around the world. But we got to talk about the future. This deep dive wouldn't be complete without knowing what's next for these baking stars. They content with 35,000 members, or are they dreaming bigger?
Oh, they're just getting started, trust me. This report lays out some ambitious plans, like even more partnerships with baking companies, think more giveaways, exclusive stuff for members.
Okay, now that's just good business sense. Keep those members happy with some sweet, sweet swag. But it's got to be more than just free stuff, right?
You know it. They're also going to do online workshops taught by actual celebrity bakers from all over.
Whoa, seriously. That's amazing. Learn from the best, but like in your pajamas. Sign me up.
Right. It's taking everything they're already doing to the next level. But here's the kicker. They're working on a cookbook, a community cookbook with recipes from members around the world.
Okay, stop. That's the best idea ever. Talk about a celebration of everything this group is about. I would buy that book for sure. It's like a snapshot of global baking, all in one place.
Exactly. This group is like the gold standard for how to build an online community that's not just fun, but truly valuable for everyone involved. It takes effort, intention, and that willingness to go above and beyond.
And that's something we can all learn from,
Right.
right? Whether we're trying to build a baking empire or just connect with a few people who share our love of, I don't know, vintage stamps or something. So, listeners, we got to ask, what are you passionate about? What kind of community could you create, even if it's just a small one, around that thing you love?
It's something to think about, right? Because at the end of the day, we all want to find our people, the ones who get us and our weird hobbies. And baking great bread at home proves that's possible, even online, even with thousands of people.
Couldn't have said it better myself. So on that note, go forth and find your people, bake some bread, connect with someone new. Until next time, happy deep diving, everyone.